read a book this summer that blew my mind. It was super eye-opening about the history of our education system, and I'm going to go through each chapter and just kind of boil it down to the most important pieces, and you want to stick around for this. I was in the education system for many years. I have seen preschool classes within a university and many grades in public schools. I went to university to obtain my bachelor's degree in early childhood education and a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. Within these degrees, I learned many things that helped me become an effective teacher and many things that did not help me become an effective teacher. I am a firm believer that universities are kind of ineffective in preparing future educators. Too much time is spent in a university classroom with little time spent working with students in schools. When I went to college, which wasn't that long ago, I was not effectively taught how to teach students to read. It wasn't until I got my letter certificate, which is in the science of reading, that I truly understood how our brains learn to read and how to effectively teach children to read. Universities are effective at failing our future educators in more ways than one. Reading and writing is a skill that is of utmost importance. This is one of the most important skills needed for a successful and productive society. When we can read, comprehend, compare text, and learn from it, we become better humans. When you can effectively write about your thoughts or what you have learned, it fosters individualistic ideas that can bring a wealth of knowledge to others. As of 2022, in the United States, our reading scores for 4th through 8th graders are the lowest since 1992. With the recent COVID pandemic, there were school closures, little to no guidance for remote learning, and little to no time to prepare. I remember the day that we were told it would be the last with our students in our classroom. We had 1 week to get things ready to teach students remotely. Unfortunately, we were extremely unprepared. To make a bad situation worse, I only had about 30% of students actively participating in remote learning. At the time, I was teaching 1st grade. Kindergarten through 3rd grade is a very important time in learning to read and write. You are being taught the foundations. You can't build a house without a foundation. I knew that this was going to create a deficit in reading and writing abilities in the future. When we came back the following school year, the masking and social distancing requirements hindered even more learning. When learning to read, students must be aware of how the sounds are formed in our mouth, and masks made it difficult to teach this skill. Learning to read is not simply based on sight. You need to gain the skill of phonological awareness, have large oral vocabulary, know how sounds are formed in the mouth, know the symbols that represent these sounds, map sound and symbol correspondence, segmenting and blending sounds in reading and writing, and knowing the meaning of words. With everything that was happening, many students were behind benchmarks and teachers everywhere had no clue how to bridge this gap. I was one of those teachers. I didn't have many tools in my tool belt and didn't truly understand how to teach students to read. Thank you, university. Fortunately, the district I was teaching in was on the cutting edge of understanding the science of reading, and thus began my journey of understanding how we learn to read. This last year, I started with the lowest academic class I have ever seen. Within the same year, I also saw the largest academic growth, with more students on or above grade level than I had ever seen. This is all thanks to my understanding of how we learn to read. Now, this is the sad reality in American schools right now. The system is broken. I believe this is because of how we educate our future educators and through policies that hurt our future generation. I wondered how all of this research on how to effectively teach children to read had been out there, but wasn't being taught. 70 years of brain research. Why was the system failing our students in more ways than one? The sad reality is that schools are schooling children instead of fostering education. Schooling and education are two very different things. Schooling is being taught a specific skill, and education can be defined as an enlightening experience. If your public school education experience was like mine, it wasn't very enlightening. You're probably wondering how I became a teacher when I don't believe in the very system I was in. I truly thought that as a teacher, I could make a difference. I didn't realize that the system was broken until I was fully immersed in it. I wanted my classroom to be a fun and loving place that students loved to be. The sad reality turned out to be that it was a bunch of kill and drill and management of student behavior. That wasn't fun for me or the students. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. As a teacher, you have so many requirements on how to teach and to teach this curriculum to fidelity or routines that have to be taught. There were many times when I went off script and shut my door because I know what I was doing wasn't doing any good for anyone. How do I create a classroom that will blossom children's love for self-education and be a guide to learning new skills when the system is doing the complete opposite? It makes you feel micromanaged, underqualified, and you begin to burn out very quickly. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves, and that should be concerning. Why are so many teachers leaving? Well, that's not a question that I can answer because I'm not every teacher, but many are leaving due to burnout. And if they're like me, they're leaving to create an alternative system. I wanted to understand our system. I wanted to be the person that stops participating in something broken. I wanted to provide a service to the world that can help all children learn how to read and write while fostering a new love for learning. George Washington was quoted saying, "The means of forming a manly, virtuous, and happy people will be found in the right education of youth. Without this foundation, every other means, in my opinion, must fail." I truly believe that if we can foster a love of learning, our children will want to learn on their own. In my opinion, we have the wrong idea of what school is. This is a long thread of videos where I'm going to go through my own enlightening and would love for you to join. I believe that conversations and differing perspectives are how we fix our broken systems. I want to work together to foster new ideas and solutions to the problems we face. The quote, "Education is not preparation for life, education is life itself," by Franklin D. Roosevelt is an important reminder of how education of ourselves can create a better life. Change starts with the education of the individual. We all have the power to help make change for the better. I am going to explore the book, The Underground History of American Education by John Taylor Gatto. We are all in for a ride in this beautifully written and educational book through the eyes of an educator in New York City. In my next video, I'll be going over the first chapter, Unschooling, Rekindling the Joy of Learning.